Okay, so my name is Kevin Thomas. I'm the head of department at UCT Department of Psychology. And I'm going to be talking to you about some of the course offerings that we have, and I'm talking to you a little bit about what it takes to get into psychology at UCT. So let me start off by saying then, talking to you a little bit about what psychology is. So the picture you see there's a little bit of a strange perspective on the Department of Psychology at UCT, which is in the PD Hahn building. We have 3 of our own floors, which includes labs, it includes computer rooms for students, and it of course includes offices for all of our academic staff members. So in that building, we study psychology, which is the science of mind and behavior. And so what psychologists do straddles the bounds between neuroscience and social science. And what that means is that we study both the brain and the brain's emergent properties and how all of that affects the way that people interact within the world, whether they are interacting with the environment, whether they are interacting with another person, whether they're interacting with groups of people, whether they're interacting within organizations, or whether the interaction is with themselves, in other words, with their own consciousness, with their own perceptions and their own cognitions. So psychology covers a very broad range of sub-disciplines because we study brain function, we study cognition and perception, sensation, we study emotion and affect, we study personality, we study all interpersonal processes. As I said, those interpersonal processes can range from one-on-one interaction to interactions within very large groups. The thing that unites all of these different sub-disciplines is the methods that we undertake to study those behaviors and the interactions of people with one another. And the methods are empirical methods, so it's a method of observing, it's a method where we gather data, it's a method where we analyze those data, and then we write them up in order to share our findings with the world. And in terms of sharing findings with the world, we apply the problems that we solve to individuals. So for instance, if you were looking at individual therapy, for instance, which is what clinical psychologists do, we apply it to couples, family therapy, we apply it in groups, and these groups can be in organizations, they can be groups in terms of academia, any kind of educational institution. They can be groups in terms of sporting groups, they can be groups in terms of the legal system, because many psychologists, of course, operate in forensic settings, and then there are industrial organizational psychologists who operate in the settings of large businesses. So that's what psychology is. It's a very broad discipline, and it's, as I said, it's somewhere in between the neurosciences, it's one of the neurosciences, and it's also a social science, and it's somewhere in between those two. And what we try to do at the Department of Psychology is to introduce students to that broad range of content, and we try to give them the skills to operate in all of those different kinds of settings in which psychologists may operate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about the courses that we offer, and then when I'm done talking about that, I will talk about the admissions criteria for psychology. It makes sense to talk about it in this way because what you'll need to know in terms of admissions criteria is sort of built on how we structure the undergraduate degree in particular. So in terms of courses that we offer, the first year courses, there are 2 of them. One is in the first semester, so that's PSY 1004F, and then there is PSY 1005S, which is in the second semester. And in 1004F, which is Introduction to Psychology Part 1, we do a very brief history of psychology, and then we go into topics: biopsychology and memory, genetics and evolutionary psychology, health psychology, and you can see all of the others there. So the way that these lectures are all structured, or the series of lectures are structured, is you will get 2 or 3 or 4 lectures on each of these topics. So it's a very brief and very broad overview of some of the topics that we study in psychology. And then 1005S builds on that, and there are more topics here: intelligence, consciousness, emotion, motivation, personality, and social psychology. But the second semester of that first year also has a big focus on research methods. So this is the first time that students will get introduced to some basic statistical methods. They'll get introduced to ways in which psychologists create and design research, so different methods of doing experiments, of quasi-experimental, of observational studies, and so forth. And there's a brief research project that is actually a part of 1005S. So in order to progress onto second year, students must do well in both of these courses, 1004F and 1005S, because successful completion of these courses is a prerequisite for entry into second year. So in the second year, then, we have the content courses. So there are two content courses. Both of them are divided up into two modules. So there are two modules in 2013F. The first is social psychology, which focuses on race and racism, social identity and social change, intergroup contact, and social influence. So this is a very brief introduction into some deeper topics in social psychology. The second part of that first semester of the second part of the first semester second year course is developmental psychology. This is quite a shift then, because developmental psychology talks about everything from prenatal development all the way to older age, and it takes us through cognition, the development of cognition and language at different stages, through childhood and adolescence, social and emotional development through childhood and adolescence, and then also the contexts that shape that development. So social and developmental psychology are both in the first semester. It's under one course code, but it is two separate modules. And that's similar in 2014S, which is the second semester, second year course. The first part of it is cognitive neuroscience. The second part of it is abnormal psychology. So cognitive neuroscience is the first of our courses that really focuses very closely on brain-behavior relations. So it will teach the student things like, how does the visual system support basic and more complex visual processing? What are the language systems in the brain? What are the memory systems in the brain, and so on? So that's cognitive neuroscience, talking about normal cognitive functioning. And then abnormal psychology, the second part of that course, talks about psychopathology. So this will go through some of the basic mental disorders, major depressive disorder, all of the anxiety disorders, including obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, social anxiety disorder, and so forth. We're also talking a little bit about the personality disorders and the schizophrenias. So that's a big course in the second semester. And again, it's two modules contained within one course code. So those are the content courses in the second year, and all students who are majoring in psychology will have to take both of these courses, 2013F and 2014S. They will also have to take a research course. So Research in Psychology 1 is PSY 2015F. And this is divided into four different modules, which mirror the four major approaches to research in psychology. So quantitative methods, qualitative methods, and then statistical analysis, which obviously is related very closely to quantitative methods, and then psychometrics, which is the science of testing. So all students, again, must take 2015F. That is a prerequisite for the degree. It's also a prerequisite for moving on to third year. So third year, we have 4 content courses: critical psychology, applied cognitive science, introduction to clinical neuropsychology, and clinical psychology 2. So critical psychology focuses on these topics which are listed here: liberation psychology, post-colonial psychology, and feminist psychology. It builds a lot on the social psychology module in second year. 3009F, applied cognitive science, builds a lot on the cognitive neuroscience module in the second year, and it takes a look at neural networks, the influences of biological cycles on behavior, the influences of drugs and hormones on cognition and behavior, and has some short lecture series on decision making, memory, face recognition, and evolutionary psychology. So that's a big course which features a big research project at its end. 3010S Introduction to Clinical Neuropsychology builds a lot on, again, the cognitive neuroscience module in second year. It focuses on really the clinical presentation of human neurological dysfunction, which means to say, what are the disorders of memory? What are the disorders of visual processing? What are the disorders of language? What are disorders of, for instance, sleep? What happens to people who are prenatally exposed to alcohol, and so forth? We also do a bit on HIV neuropsychology in that course. And then the final content course in third year is Clinical Psychology 2, and that builds on the abnormal psychology module from second year and looks primarily at the local mental health context and how that influences diagnosis and intervention. So these are 4 third-year courses. Any student who wants to major in psychology will have to take 2 of these, could be any 2 of the 4. But you must do a third-year research course in order to major in psychology. This is Research in Psychology 2, and again here we look at statistical analysis, qualitative methods, quantitative methods, and psychological measurement. It's a mirror of the second year course, but it is in more depth and doing more complex, teaching the student more complex things. So those are the 3 years of psychological study. And so the components of the undergraduate degree, this next slide is a summary of the undergraduate degree structure. In the first year, you must do PSY 1004F and 1005S, which is Introduction to Psychology 1 and 2. In the second year, you must do these 3 courses, so the 2 content courses, which is Social and Developmental, Cognitive Neuroscience and Abnormal Psychology, and Research 1. In the third year, any 2 of these 4 courses, so 3005F, Critical Psychology, 3009, Applied Cognitive Science, 3010, Introduction to Clinical Neuropsychology, 3011, Clinical Psychology 2, and then you must do the third year research course, which is Research in Psychology 2. So that's your structure of your undergraduate degree, and you will see that there are 2, 5, 8 courses that you must do in order to get the undergraduate degree in psychology. Okay, so when you have an undergraduate degree in psychology, let me pause there before I move on to the next slide. If you have that undergraduate degree in psychology, a question will arise for the third year student. What can you do with that? So what do our students do with that? Some of them leave the degree at that point. They go do honors in something else, or they pursue postgraduate study in some other discipline. Some people leave university altogether and they work in various corporate settings for NGOs. Some of them will study teaching further. What many students want to do is continue their study in psychology, and that takes them into honors in psychology. Now, honors in psychology at UCT is difficult to get into, and for those of you who are attending this session, you're quite a way away from honors. You're at least 3 years away from honors, but it's worthwhile me talking you through it a little bit, because the admission criteria for honors in psychology is really about your marks, and your marks over 3 years. So there's no bedding in period or settling in period. Your marks in first year will play a role in you getting into honors. So honors in psychology is difficult to get into. There are, in third year psychology, there are, well, let me go back one slide. In our first year courses, we have around about 1,000 students taking these courses here. There are somewhere about between 500 and 600 students taking the second year courses, and then 300 or so students taking the third year courses. In honors, we admit about 50 students into honors. So we go from 1,000 first years to about 350 or so third years to about 50 honors students. And honors students are not at UCT, are not just drawn from UCT, they're drawn from all over the country, sometimes all over the world. We have students applying to our honors program from universities in other parts of the world. So it's a very difficult step to go from third year to honors. It's not guaranteed that if you finish third year at UCT, you're going to be in honors. You have to have done very well academically. In honors in psychology, you have your compulsory courses, these three: philosophical theoretical issues, research methods, and statistics. Those are the three courses you must take. And then you must take any three of these electives, from developmental through neuropsychology, through critical psychology, political psychology, neuropsychological rehabilitation. You will see that all of these courses are in some way building on the offerings that we've had at undergraduate level, but as I said, it's not necessary that you would need to have been at UCT in order to do this honors course. So this is a one-year honors degree, and when you are done with that, again, there's an exit point. So people will go out and they will go work in corporates, NGOs. They will do teaching, they will do various things, go perhaps do another honors degree, another MA degree in a different discipline. But some of our students go on then to do MA in clinical psychology, which is one of our professional programs. So the emphasis in our MA in clinical psychology training is on competence in working in multilingual and multicultural societies. This is a 3-year program, so you have 1 year where you are introduced to the program and you do a lot on your research thesis. The second year is broadly speaking focused on your clinical training, and then the third year is internship, and that's not done on campus. It's at a dedicated internship site, and from there the person will go to community placement before they are an independent practitioner. So that's your MA in clinical psychology. Our other professional program is the MA in neuropsychology. So this also includes a research thesis. It is a 2-year program with a 1-year internship before you can be registered as a neuropsychologist with the Health Professions Council of South Africa. It has some of these courses, so course on neuropsychological disorders, courses on neuroanatomy and neuropathology. There's a rehabilitation course which is not listed here, but this is a 2 years of training to do clinical assessment and also doing all of the didactic work, and then there's the internship. So that's the MA in neuropsychology. For clinical psychology and neuropsychology, clinical psychology takes a maximum of 8 people into its training every year. Neuropsychology, a maximum of 6 people into its training every year. And the reason we are so limited is because each of these needs careful supervision. So you will be clinically supervised very closely by one or more of our academic staff members. And then there's also an MA in research psychology. So this does not lead to a professional registration, but it does lead to the person having the M degree. There's a minor dissertation involved in this, and the person also has to do coursework. So in this case, you will do one course which is focused on research methods and another course which is focused on content. And the content could be, there's a choice of different courses: aging and the human brain, affective neuroscience, program evaluation, different courses which make up the course here. But there are only 2 courses that need to be taken here. Most people finish this degree within 2 years, the MA in psychological research. And then beyond that, we have our PhD. So this is a dissertation-only degree. There's no coursework. You must have an M degree in psychology or related discipline in order to get to this point. And the product here is a research dissertation up to 80,000 words that makes some unique contribution to knowledge. So this is very far away for those of you who are still in high school. It's not necessarily a straight shot from undergraduate to honors to MA to PhD. People take breaks in between those, and people who do the PhD are typically those individuals who want to work in academia. So doing the kind of thing that I do, which is a lot of teaching, a lot of supervision of research, and a lot of research. Okay, so that's all of the course offerings that we have. I've given you the structure of the undergraduate degree. And so now what I'm going to talk to you about is how do you get into psychology in the first place? So what are the admission criteria for our first year courses? So and really what that means is 1004F, which is the first course in the degree, because once you have gained admission to 1004F, then your prerequisite for 1005S is 1004F, and the prerequisite for all the second and third year courses are the courses that precede them. So the prerequisite for the second year courses is successful completion of the first year courses, and so on for the third year courses. So in order to gain unconditional access to 1004F, you will have scored 70% on NBTQL, at least 50% on maths, not maths literacy. And that is in addition to the normal admission criteria for the Faculty of Humanities. So however many points you need for humanities, those are the points that you need for psychology. But in addition to that, you must also have done 70% on the NBT quantitative literacy, or at least 50% on your maths matric mark. If you don't meet those two requirements, you can get into 1004F with NBTQL score less than 69 or 69 or less. So in that case, you can register for these mathematics courses, 1014F, 1016S, concurrent with your psychology courses. So in other words, you'd have to do these maths courses, intro maths courses, at the same time as your first year psychology, because as you have seen me talking you through these, through the degree structure, we do a lot of research methods and statistics. We have courses, specific courses for that at second year and third year. So we need to be sure that people who are in the degree are at least comfortable with mathematics before they enter into second year study. And then students have completed maths literacy are subject to the NBTQL criterion. So even if you are not taking maths, but are taking maths literacy, you can still get into psychology. You just have to do the NBT. Okay, so those are the entry requirements. Again, just to recap, it is the normal points that you would need for admission to the Faculty of Humanities, and then over and above that, the maths requirement that we have. And if you are taking math literacy, it's fine. You just have to be sure to do the NBT quantitative literacy, and in order to avoid doing the maths courses in first year, you should get 70% or higher on the NBTQL. Okay, so now we're at the question and answer portion of this presentation. I'm going to show the. I'm looking at the questions and answers, and I will go through them and try to get to as many as I can within the next. I think I have 5 minutes to go in this presentation. If I don't get to all of them, I will place them in. I will place answers to them in the Q&A spot. The first question is, I want to study counseling psychology. Do I study everything to do with psychology? Yes. You have to have an undergraduate degree in psychology in order to study counseling psychology. In order to be registered as a counseling psychologist with the Health Professions Council of South Africa, you must have an MA degree in counseling psychology. We at UCT don't offer counseling psychology, but for instance, UWC does. I think Stellenbosch does as well. So yes, that is that's the answer to that question. The next question: are you required to do the NBTs? I think I answered that question. If you did math lit at school, do you need to take a maths course in first semester? No, you don't need to do a maths course necessarily. If you have done maths literacy and you do the NBT and you get 70% or more on the NBT quantitative literacy, you do not need to do the maths course in university. If you get less than 70%, then you will be required to do MAM 1014 and MAM 1016. What are the requirements? I think I went through that. In terms of what courses you need to do at the in high school, obviously it helps if you do maths and you get more than 50%, because then you are you can gain automatic admission to psychology. But even if you're not doing maths, you're doing maths literacy, that is fine. As I've said, there's ways around that. You don't have to be doing physics or chemistry, life sciences, biology. None of those things are required at the high school level in order for you to gain entry into psychology. Our NBTs a requirement, again, only if you have done maths literacy and not maths. In what faculty is psychology? Faculty of humanities. If you want to be a psychologist, you must do PSY 1004F and 1005S. Those are the two first-year psychology courses. Those are the only first-year psychology courses. Those are the courses you will do even if you end up studying industrial and organizational psychology, which has its home in the Faculty of Commerce, but all other psychology is in the Faculty of Humanities. The mark requirements for matrics applying for psychology, the mark requirements are you must get the points that the Faculty of Humanities requires. Those are the point requirements. And then of course there's the maths requirement, which I've said before. What course will I need to study? Again, the first year psychology courses, 1004F, 1005S. Subject requirements, I think we've covered that. There are no strict subject requirements. You could be taking anything as long as there is some maths in there and you've done the NBTQL if you've done maths literacy. If you don't take biology, can you get into psychology? Absolutely, yes. You don't have to take biology in high school. Will I be able to eventually pursue a degree in genetics, become a genetic counselor by studying a degree in psychology? If your second major was in the Faculty of Health Sciences, you were doing genetics there, then yes, but not just by doing the degree in psychology. You would need to take specific courses in genetics, which are housed in the Faculty of Science. Can one apply to study psychology with math literacy? Yes, you can. Next question just says XXX, so I'm going to say yes, yes, yes to that. Which faculty does psychology fall into? Humanities. I've applied to do BA general degree. Can I choose psychology as a subject? Yes, that is, you can absolutely do that. What's covered in that as a subject, I've covered all of those. I've given you the whole undergraduate degree structure. Psychology is a major under Bachelor of Social Sciences. Yes, it can either be BA or B SocSci. Mark requirements to be able to study for this course. Again, it's simply the marks the points that you'd need for the Faculty of Humanities. This is probably the most informative session I've attended today. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for that compliment. It's my pleasure to do this. I hope to see you in our department very soon. How many places are available? We ordinarily get something like 1,000 first-year students taking psychology. That's about the limit of what we can manage. And we don't have strict enrollment caps because, especially while we're doing things virtually, but I would say we're looking at, generally speaking, we try not to take more than 1,000 people into the degree, and we can accommodate everybody who wants to be a major, psychology major, we will take. What subjects are required? We've covered that question. No real subject requirements. Can students take more than 2 content courses in third year? Yes, absolutely. You can take as many as you want, but the 2 is the minimum in order to get the degree. Can a psychologist treat a mental health person? If you mean, can a psychologist deliver mental health services? Yes, that's what clinical psychologists do. Counseling psychologists do some of that. Even educational psychologists within the school setting can deliver mental health services, primarily the domain of clinical psychologists. So yes, but in order to do that, you have to go all the way and get a professional registration. So the MA in clinical psychology, the MA in counseling psychology or neuropsychology, that's when you can actually do treatment. Will the slides be available after the talk? I would have to talk to the producers. I'm very willing to share them, but I'll find out whether and how I can share them. Other subject requirements needed? No, there are no subject requirements. We've covered that. Which reports should we apply with? You should apply to the faculty. So it's whatever the Faculty of Humanities requires, and then you state that you want your major to be psychology, and then that is how you get into psychology. How many per week? Generally speaking, we have 4 lectures per week, every day, from Tuesday to Friday, a 1-hour lecture in each of the courses that I've talked about. Generally speaking, that's how our degrees work. It's a little bit different in some of the research courses where there might be only 2 lectures per week, but we also have tutorials. So there'll be either 1 tutorial per week, which is the case in first year, or 1 tutorial every 2 or 3 weeks, which is the case in the third year courses. Can you do psychology with math lit? Yes, you can. Next question, I have a degree in education. My majors were languages and psychology, also took other psychology modules. What can I do for enter the path of clinical psychology? Do you have to do an entire course? So the person who has asked this question, I would advise you to email me. My email is on the UCT Department of Psychology website, and we can talk specifically about your case and what you need to do in order to get into UCT. I'm also going to private reply to you, giving you my email address, and we can discuss from there, because this is a postgraduate question. Okay. Another person who okay, I will. Another person who wants a private reply. What would differ from the normal undergraduate 3-year program compared to the extended 4-year degree program? The courses are the same. If you are in the extended degree program, you have extra sets of tutorials in the first year at least, but the actual courses that you take would be exactly the same. Please explain the mark criteria. Does one need, oh, I'm sorry, I missed that question. What math course do you take in the first year? It would be MAM 1014F and MAM 1016S. That is that's the way that would work. How do you combine psychology with other science courses such as physiology? That would depend on how you structure your degree. So you would have two majors that you can take at UCT, and that's how you do that. Minimum points one must have for psychology humanities faculty. That would be at the Faculty of Humanities website. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to commit to it because sometimes these things change, and I don't want to mislead you. But that will be in the Faculty of Humanities website, and you should consult the Faculty of Humanities website or the handbook. Are there placement years for undergraduate degree in psychology? I'm afraid I don't know what that means, placement years. If that means internships or whether you're doing anything in terms of actual outside work, no. I would study child psychology. What should I study? You only would major in that at the postgraduate level. And so our degree and every degree at every South African university is a general degree in psychology. It's not degrees in child psychology. So your general undergraduate degree is what you should do in general undergraduate degree in psychology, and then you specialize in child psychology at the later stage in your postgraduate work. What sort of mathematics is in the QL NBT? Is it core maths? I couldn't really speak to this question. It is, yeah, I couldn't really speak to this question. I know it's nothing high level, no sort of calculus kinds of things. It's basic kinds of mathematics, but more than that, I don't really know. How does the point system work? Again, please consult the Faculty of Humanities handbook for how points are calculated. You will essentially, how it works is you add up your best 6 subjects, and in some cases you'll double your English mark in order to get a point total. But that is all available on the Faculty of Humanities website. How to apply for both psychology and English majors? They're both part of humanities. You would apply to the Faculty of Humanities, so you need to get into the Faculty of Humanities first, and then you would state that you want to do psychology and English as your majors, but you are gaining admission to the university via humanities. You don't apply to the departments directly, you apply to the faculty. Is it at all possible to start with B-Sci, industrial psychology, move over to neuropsychology? Yes, it is possible, but you'd have to do the honors course first. You have to do honors in psychology before you can do the MA in neuropsychology. Which courses complement honors in neuropsychology in the undergraduate degree? Yes, chemistry, biology, any of the physical sciences would benefit more than, for instance, philosophy, but that doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't do philosophy if that interests you, because we don't look at what courses you've done as an undergraduate in order to get you into either honors or into the MA. It's really your marks in the courses that you've taken. So my advice is take what you're interested in. Don't tailor what you're doing to what you think people want. Is UCT's requirements considered to be higher than other universities? I would say that we are happy with where our requirements are. I cannot speak for other universities or how we compare to them. We're very happy with our degree and our degree structure and the students that we admit. How many subjects are counted for faculty point score for psychology and humanities? 6. You include your best 6. You do not include life orientation. Possible to do BSc then go to neuropsychology? Yes, absolutely. Must you write both QL and math NBTs? QL is the math NBT. It's the quantitative literacy one. Yes, you must do that. Is Jung covered in psychology? Is it primarily Freud? Neither one of those is covered in great detail. There's a little bit of both, but it's not a choice between the two of them. We are, I would say, our primary orientations here are brain behavior and critical psychology. How many students are accepted into psychology for the undergraduate degree each year? As I said, close to 1,000 first years, and then some people will drop off at the end of first year. What are some career opportunities? I think I've talked a little bit about this. The career opportunities become stronger as the longer you go in the degree. So somebody with an honors degree will have more opportunity to be operating in the psychological sphere than somebody who has an undergraduate degree. And then, of course, the professional degrees really are tailored for clinical psychology and neuropsychology as registrable categories. But we have people who've undergraduate psychology degrees who are doing all sorts of things. They're teaching, they're in corporates, they're working for NGOs, they're entrepreneurs, many different career opportunities. Regarding honors and MA, would students already still have some form of advantage compared to foreign students when choosing the select few? Not necessarily, especially for the MA. For honors, perhaps, but it really depends on the marks you get. So no matter where you've gone, if you have averaged, let's say, a first over your 3 years, you'd have a really strong shot at getting into UCT honors. What sort of maths is in the NBTQL? I've already answered that one. How do you combine psychology with other courses? I've already answered that one. How many students are admitted? Already answered that one. How does consumer studies assist a student in psychology? Not really, unless you're looking to do something as a research project in consumer studies that you're either your honors or MA or a PhD. Criminal psychology. We don't really do a lot on criminal psychology. We have courses that touch on forensic aspects, but it's primarily around face recognition, eyewitness recognition, but not anything much more than that. Can I just study psychology or must I take other courses? In order to get the degree at UCT, you must do 2 majors. This has helped me so much. Thank you for that. Would it be wise to study philosophy and psychology? Again, if those are the things that you want to study, yes, it would be wise to do it. It's not an uncommon mix, philosophy and psychology. So I would say if that's what you want to do, then that's what you should do. If you don't get 50% in maths, high school, are you required to write NBTs? Yes, you are. I see somebody says 450. I'm assuming that is the faculty points. For 450 points needed for admissions to the Faculty of Humanities. If we did pure maths, we only need to complete NBTQL. If you did pure maths and you got 50%, you would not need to do the quantitative literacy part of the NBTs. You'd only need to do the other one. Do you have estimated amount of how much one would pay for the first 3 years, textbooks included? I don't have an estimated amount, I'm sorry. Any amount I give you is likely going to be wrong. But somebody in the Faculty of Humanities admissions office would be able to give you a much better idea about that, and I would contact somebody in there. Okay, I think those are all of the questions that we have that I have now. So again, yeah, I think that's everything we have now. I think that my time is up. So I will thank you all for attending. Thank you for some of the kind comments you've given about the informativeness of the session. If you would like more information about our department, you can just go to Google Department of Psychology UCT. You will find our webpage there, and then all of our contact information is on that site. So again, thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will take my leave of you now. Thanks, everybody.